Hello, everybody. I'm immigration lawyer John Kasravi. Thank you for joining me today. Got caught off guard there for those watching the live YouTube feed. But I'm immigration lawyer John. I'm here from Los Angeles. We have a show every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern. We take your questions about U.S. immigration law for general educational purposes only, not intended as individual legal guidance. We got to sit and talk and schedule a consultation to really get into your case for something like that. But I come and get your general questions and try to give a perspective on how the immigration system works in the regard of the situation you're having. It's always different, and the government always acts differently for everything. So there are limitations we can do here, but we try our best to add in clarity to the confusion, the process, especially as the Trump administration currently is doing a lot of stuff that's abnormal. And we're trying to make sense of it, and it's changing every day. And you're going to hear a lot of different stuff. I have a client that reached out to me last week, and he showed me a video of this one lawyer. Lawyer's been doing 15 years, saying some absolutely wild stuff that's not true about the travel ban, saying if you have a green card, they might not let you in, and this and that. There's nothing in the travel ban that says that. People are traveling, that's green card holders, Iranians, Venezuelans, and people on travel ban for it hasn't been a problem. If it was a problem, there's a legal reason to advise that, or any factual or practical reason, then we'd say it. But I was surprised he was posting this on his Instagram. But just the wild situation, it's hard to find facts. So, we're here to ask your questions, compare with others, and just take it there. And the best thing to do after that is to schedule a private consultation to talk about your case in more detail. The private consultation can be set up. There's fees associated with it, but you got to contact us first and briefly describe what kind of case or issue is it that you have, because each case is different. And the place to go is our website, jqklaw.com/contact. That's jqklaw.com/contact. And we can set up a time there. Once you briefly describe your situation and give your contact info. The first question, USA Flag says, what about N400 process time? That really depends primarily on the local field office that gets your case and how busy the officer is, as well as what's going on with your case. It could be 3 months, it could be a year and a half. And if it goes longer, then that's kind of abnormal, but nothing you can do about it essentially. But the timeline is so all over the place that's essentially for 99% of the people who ask that question, the answer is just wait, just be patient and wait, and it'll all happen in due time, unless it's years you're waiting or something like that. But that we get that question a lot, and really that's the real answer to it. Okay, so feel free to shoot out your questions. The big question people are asking in regard to citizenship is the new policy memo that the Trump administration put out, saying that they're going to focus on one is if you're saying anti-American or anti-Semitic or anti-Israel stuff, but kind of more importantly, because most people are not going to be saying that, is the good moral character requirement. And instead of for citizenship satisfying the basic requirements of being in the United States long enough, having a clean criminal history, they're going to kind of analyze you to say what kind of participation have you had in society, how have you been helpful, how have you not been helpful, what's going on with your finances, and that things that they haven't been checking for decades. So that's something that is going to start now. But the thing is, it's so new and the policy is so vague what they gave us, and no one really knows how it's going to play out. And so we're just going to have to, the immigration lawyers who do these cases and see a lot of them are going to start collecting information to be able to guide. But right now, a lot of people want information. And other than that, on the extremes, people who obviously will have problems with it, which is fewer people, it's hard to say how it's all going to look. SJ asks, what percentage of I-751 get approved before N400? And if they do get approved before N400, what percent get an interview? They don't publish that information, first of all, so no one knows that. Even the government doesn't keep track of that stuff. But secondly, a lot of these people who ask these kind of questions about percentages, they're trying to estimate for themselves. But each immigration case is so different in the process and the field office and the officer, your relationship and your history is so different that it absolutely, it's not a useful statistic, even if they had it. So whatever, even if I had an answer to that, or the government provided an answer to that, it doesn't make a difference in your case. Your case is your case, and it'll happen. Like, let me give an example. We had a I-751. I-751 is if you got a green card based on marriage, but your marriage is rather new. So the government originally only gives you a 2-year green card, and it says at the 2-year near expiration of the green card, renew it, but without renewal, send evidence that your relationship is real. Like, we want to double check to make sure you didn't have a fake relationship. And that takes so long nowadays. Sometimes it's done in 3 to 6 months, but most of the time that case on its own will take 2 to 3 years to complete. It's backed up. But while that's pending, if you've been married and living with a U.S. citizen for 3 years after getting the green card, you could file for U.S. citizenship. And what that does is it has another officer view the citizenship case, and they might just fast forward and approve the I-751, the previous case, with it, which is what we always do in our firm. It's a typical thing. Earlier, I was speaking about lawyers get bad information. There's a couple of lawyers online I've seen who say that you cannot file for citizenship while you have an I-751 pending. That's incorrect. A side note on that. But in this case, we had an interview scheduled for next week to go. I-751, they finally got an interview scheduled. I-751 and M400. Removal conditions, taking a green card 2 year to 10-year, and then immediately afterwards, they'll go do a citizenship interview, and we're ready to go. And then last Thursday, they called from local office, and they said, and they didn't call me, they called the client, which is not supposed to, so they call me, and they're like, yeah, go and upload some more joint documents right now. I'll approve the I-751 case right now. And the client was like, I was preparing these to give to my lawyer for him to upload into the system. I can't do it. He's like, no, you have to do it right now. And the guy's like, I just can't do it. I was like, well, let me call back. So officer hangs up, calls back again. He's like, you know what? I'll just approve the I-751, and we're going to reschedule your M400 interview. We don't know what's going to happen. So this situation was happened last week. It's just like, it's crazy. It's like the guy called him and said, do it. It's all good. And they approved the I-751, no interview. And now the M400 was descheduled, had an appointment time, but they canceled the appointment time. So these are the things we see every day in immigration that is like so all over the place and so out of the ordinary and out of like how they're supposed to do stuff. That when it comes to like any percentage of how things work and how long it's going to take and who's going to take, it's so all over the place that every time I've been doing this for 15 years, I teach courses on how to do my cases. I've taught at law schools. I have my own course in a program called the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox. You can look it up at immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com. And after essentially thousands of these, every time is different. So we can never tell. That's why when people sign up and they say, oh, it's an easy case, it's straightforward. It's like, yeah, it's never the same. Each person has different birth certificate issues. Each embassy does things differently. Each field office does things differently. The officer that you do an interview with or reviewing a case will have a different perspective than the other person. And so it's always going to be a different situation. Now, unluckily for the person who asked this question, having some stream issues. Once you're live, your stream is probably going to find the top. Okay. I'm having some stream issues on Instagram, so this long-winded answer I just gave, he missed it all. Sorry, buddy. You'll have to watch on the YouTube feed. But if y'all haven't watched on YouTube, that's the place to go because on YouTube I can answer your questions better than on these other apps. And you can find a recording of this available on our YouTube page, JQK Law Immigration Lawyers Talk, or Immigration JK Law or U.S. Immigration Talk that we have. But that's that. What's going on with my with the feed on Instagram? That's unfortunate because we always have some good questions on Instagram. And when you're doing a live show, you got to do this stuff live. Okay, so save changes. Let's remove Instagram, bring it back in while we're doing a live show. Let's see how that works out. I'll answer a question, and I've answered so many questions right now. I could do it while doing two things at once usually without saying anything that's too incoherent. But let's see if I can pull it off again. Okay, so let's add Instagram there. What can I do if my individual here keeps being forwarded? I don't handle immigration court cases, but right now, not much you can do. Under previous administrations, you could try to contact ICE and try to do some situation. Depends on what your case issue is, what your hearing is, stuff like that. Or if there's an urgency, you can talk to a judge. It really depends on the facts. If you have some like important thing or reason to do it, or sometimes in the past, if your lawyer, for example, had other cases that are earlier, you might have another case. The lawyer might have another case that they want to push theirs back, and they'll ask the court for you to switch places. So like all these sort of different things are possible, but it really depends on so many different factors. You guys should have an immigration attorney. They should go talk with them about it and figure it out and all that kind of stuff. So there's stuff to do. It's very, very, very harder and unlikely to get anything done under the current administration. But that's what you got to do. Okay, we have a question. And TXKKK asks, hi there. I applied for adjustment of status, a green card in the U.S. in May 20. I received an RFE, a request for evidence for affidavit of support I-864, which I replied. But I made a mistake on the initial portal, and then I uploaded the correct info on unsolicited evidence. Am I good or no? Well, I haven't done that mistake before, so I can't say for sure. You gotta, when you upload it, you should designate it as RFE evidence, because when you upload information to the USCIS portal, the my.uscis.gov, there's limitations on bandwidth, size of the file, how many you put at initial upload. So once you do the initial upload, you can upload more. So that could potentially work. Also, when you designate what the file is, you should designate as an RFE response so they can see it and figure it out. But it's not a clean situation. Who knows what they're going to do at the end of the day? They'll do whatever they want. So you should probably call, message, letter, everything you can, and try to clarify the situation to avoid an unnecessary denial. Sorry that happened. That's not supposed to happen. I guess I don't know what to tell you. But try your best to try to fix it up. Most likely, I can't really say most likely or not. We just have to see what the officer reads first, and if they pay attention enough or care enough. Genuine soul asks, are people with credible fear finding from detention easily to win defensive asylum in court? I don't handle immigration court or asylum cases, so I don't want to comment on that kind of case that I don't do. Vibe says, how long after case approved will you get the green card? Typically, it's like, a week or two, but sometimes it goes much longer. Sometimes they lose a green card. Pinky asks, F3 file, my birth certificate only. My father name, my mother name is missing. I have additional proof, my mom. That's really that's really information about your personal stuff that we got to have a consultation in private to look over the birth certificate, why it was that's missing that information, what errors are, what country you're from, to see if that's typical or not there, what other documents we get from the government that explains what happened, what other evidence of your relationship you have, vaccine records, health records when you're a child, school records as a child, religious records, maybe even DNA testing. There's a lot that goes into that, Pinky, so you definitely should have an immigration lawyer on your case handling an issue like that. Jibril asks, does the BIA pending case on denial of I-135 give you a right to stay in the country legally? No, it doesn't. Not at all. Even the I-485 pending doesn't give you a right to stay legally. You have to maintain an underlying status. Without that, you're out of luck, unfortunately, when it comes to maintaining status. How long does it take to get a social security number after a fingerprint appointment? So the fingerprint appointment has no correlation with getting a social security number. People have this mistake all the time. They think that doing the biometrics appointment, the photo and fingerprints, means anything for the case itself, like to move forward. It doesn't. That just depends on when the employment authorization is approved or the adjustment of status gets around to it. Essentially, right now it's harder and harder because they shook up the system after Elon Musk came in this after the Social Security office. So you probably need the documents approved and go in person. It's going to be a while. Juan says, I'm an LPR green card holder. I have a master hearing. I got detained at the airport for criminal history, and I got detained. I think you detained. Yeah, you need an immigration lawyer in private. I don't know what your question is, but this is going to be, no matter what, it's going to be something I can't talk about here. You're released 4 days later with parole. I'm scared to go to court. You got to talk to the immigration lawyer in private and just deal with your fear. And maybe you have a bad case. Maybe it's better leave. I don't know. You might be able to fix it. It depends on what the charges are. But you need to talk with somebody. It's like if you might have cancer, you got to go talk to a person, talk to a doctor, not a live show. Fem says, if your processing time says 15 months, is that for the entire file or filing or just for the I-130 approval? It's not for the entire filing. It's allegedly for the I-130, but the processing times that they provide there are highly inaccurate. So I wouldn't bother even like referencing it or looking at it. What is the latest I-90 processing time? The same as it's always been. 2 months to 4 years. Ash Dash says, hi, I have an interview coming up. Can I upload evidence or just take them with me to the interview? You can upload evidence, but I would take them with you too if the government hasn't specifically asked you to upload stuff. Jabal says, if I-130 denied by I-A4 denials, but on I-485 denials, they mention a right to stay as legal immigration, right, was not terminated period to filing. Prior. Your question, Jabal, is not being worded well, and they can't read it well, but you don't get any status on I-485. That's a misunderstanding a lot of people have, even lawyers, unfortunately. Even if you have an I-485, it doesn't give you status. So unless you maintain some sort of B2, which you probably wouldn't, it is not long enough, tourist visa or work visa or L1 or something like that, then you probably out of status. Marius asks, does DNA testing apply to parents as well, even if they provide all the required documents and family photos? Primarily, it's birth certificate, family photos, and stuff like not needed if you have a proper birth certificate. But the Trump administration may be adding that to make things more difficult. That was a memo they put out that they're going to start doing that. It hasn't happened yet, but that's not out of the. It's not unlikely that that'll happen. That they start adding DNA testing for everybody, which is going to delay things a lot. TSKK says, when I applied for adjustment of status, I was on the 3rd month of my B2 visa, came from Canada. My case is still pending, and my B2 expired. Am I good or no? Historically, you're good, but in the last 45 days, it's a maybe no. Where the administration will say, now that your B2 is expired, they can pick you up and take you to immigration court because you've overstayed. Historically, they wouldn't do that because you have a green card case pending, but now they're doing whatever they want. It's still rare, but it does happen. Every week I hear one case like that. But for every one case, there's probably 1,000 cases that are okay. The Chosen asks, important question, sir. I see you're very knowledgeable. Can a derivative citizen get denaturalized? They can if the primary person was whether citizenship was incorrect. It really depends on the facts. There's like endless amount of facts, but they can be if you're the person they got citizenship from didn't have citizenship or wasn't proper or something, so they lose the initial reason they got their citizenship. BRW asks, can I expedite a K1 visa petition? You can request it. Extremely unlikely it's going to happen. I don't think they'll see any reason for the need, like urgency for them to do that, to expedite it. And don't forget to share this live show on TikTok to all your friends. We're answering questions. SA asks, I filed my brother's green card 2011. How long will it take? So SA, go to Google, type in Visa Bulletin, and then look for the most recent month chart they have there. And then look for the F4 preference categories, F4, the first box that comes. Look at the bottom, it says F4. See which country your brother's from or is not from on that. And that'll tell you which cases that were submitted, the form I-130, that they're approving now. And that'll give you a rough idea. The problem with that chart is it doesn't move forward every month. Sometimes it'll go years without moving. So that'll give you an initial understanding, but probably 15, 20 months. 20 years, I'm sorry. I wish it was months. 20 years. 15, 20 years. The Chosen, I answer your question, The Chosen. Rubio says, N400 clean case. Do I have to submit good moral character letter? First off, whenever people tell me they have a clean case, they don't. I've never ran into any clients who said I have a clean green card case or citizenship case, and it actually was clean. So that's always like an initial red flag. People say, I'm like, I gotta look for problems now. But having said that, it's not clear if you need to submit a good moral character letter. Right now, we're not submitting with our cases, but we're kind of like prepping the client that in case it's needed to do it, like if just mentally think about it while you could prep. But that maybe during the interview you could explain it. But really, it's just a conversation to be prepared to explain things at the interview and maybe have documentation of it. But it depends on each individual what it is that shows your good moral character. Ancestors Alert says, what happens if my husband's green card expired with a pending I-751? They don't want us reaching out with questions until 2026, but he needs documentation for work. Well, when you have a pending I-751, it gives you like an automatic 48-month extension. So that extension notice, that the receipt that is an extension notice, is for your extension. Now, if your case is still pending after that, you call USCIS and say, I need a green card stamp, added ADIT stamp, to show I'm a resident, and they'll give it to you. So that's that. It's one of those things. People having an immigration lawyer is helpful. They might have done the case just fine, but these kind of tips are really important because it affects your livelihood. They said it was extended, but that time has passed, so you got to call them and get another extension. That's it. That's all you got to do. You're not calling about the case itself. Having said that, if the 4-year process has gone long, that means it's already too long. So that's that. You could question it. So it's not they don't want you to reach out. Like 4 years is a long time, but nonetheless, you could just do that request, and you probably should be looking at filing for citizenship at this point, unless there's some issues. Thank you, Las Liva Campa. LA Sylvia Campa. Thank you. TXS follows up. Does your field office matter in terms of how long your adjustment case takes to process? Mine is Orlando, and it's heard super slow. Yeah, it does. Some officers are faster than others. Yeah. Keith Perry says, evidence sufficiency. My evidence, hospital card, delivery log, baptism, sufficient proof legitimation under Cal. I don't know. That's up to the government. I don't want to like analyze an individual case. It's not appropriate for me to do that here on like some live show to say if some case is good or not. Leo says, I have an interview for citizenship next week, but I still have a couple hundred unpaid taxes. I would say pay it. Pay it, especially if it's only a couple $100. Under new policy, they may deny you for not having paid it all. Masood says, I have a green card application. It's still 10 years. It's still 10 years, get 24 months. I don't know what you mean. Have a green card application is still 10 years, get 24 months. I'm not sure what that means. Just paid. Okay, good. Lowe says, can you file for advanced parole if you have a pending unlawful waiver? You can always file for advanced parole, whether they'll approve it or not. It's up to the government. It should really, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Well, says we want to migrate to Canada. We all U.S. citizen. Only wife is still waiting for citizenship. Is she going? I'm not sure what your question is. Maketi says, I have submitted my I-589 and never received a receipt notice. So we don't do asylum cases, but in general, getting receipts for certain cases like asylum and U visas are getting delays. I'm not sure if your case is a delay or just went to the wrong place. It was lost. I can't say, but that's all I can say. That I haven't submitted your case, so I can't check your work. New Jersey guy says, how do you prove financial commingling if your SO is in country like Cuba? I mean, you don't use financial commingling. You do other things. So letters, photos together, travel records, letters from family members showing your relationship, communication records. You use other stuff. Okay, so Wells follows up. We want to migrate to Canada. We're all U.S. citizens. Only wife is still waiting for citizenship. Is that an issue? I don't know what you mean as an issue. Like, first of all, like I don't do Canadian immigration law. Second of all, your wife can't abandon her residency in the United States because that undermines her green card. So, just avoid that. Gymnastics says wrongful deportation order, not mine. Same name, same last name. Made a motion to reopen. Okay. Gwinnett says, how long does an I-130 take for a son filing for his mom outside U.S. and Caribbean? Probably 12 to 15 months. Lois says, thank you for helping out the community. You're welcome, Lois. Thank you. That's very kind of you. All right, everybody. And I'm immigration lawyer John Kostravi. 20 minutes went by pretty fast. Went through a lot of questions. I'm trying to get better at slowing down so I can answer questions a little bit slower because people tell me I talk too fast. But then I get caught up in answering a lot of questions and I speed it up again and I burn out my throat a little bit and it's hurting a little bit. But feel free to shoot out your questions. If you want a private consultation, download our guide. I'm sorry, go to our website, jqqlaw.com/contact, jqqlaw.com/contact. What I was going to say is also you can download our guide, the Ultimate Marriage Green Card Guide, that breaks down the process of getting a marriage green card and all the stuff that's involved. Almost all the stuff. It's not like a perfect thing, but it's the best one out there. I could vouch for that. It's called the Ultimate Marriage Green Card Guide. It's free. All you got to do is download it. Give your email, download it. Go to marriageimmigrationlaw.com, 50 plus pages. And it's marriageimmigrationlaw.com. Tassawar says, sir, how long does the I-765 EAD, the work permit, take to deliver it after approval? Deliveries are usually 1 or 2 weeks later, but sometimes the post office loses it. Leo Knob asks, what are term continuous residency and physical presence works with USCIS? I think you're asking what does it mean? I have a detailed video on this on YouTube. It's like a 15-minute video. Please check it out there, JQK Law and naturalization timelines or something like that. But essentially, continuous residency means that you have continuously resided here. You don't have long gaps of more than 6 months, maybe even multiple 5-month gaps where you're not living here. And physical presence means you physically have to also be here for a set amount of time. If you're doing a 5-year based U.S. citizenship naturalization, you have to physically be here 913 days of the last 5 years before filing. But continuous residence, it becomes a problem too because people, if they're more outside for more than a year, maybe more than 6 months, maybe multiple 5-month trips, they can question whether you're continuously residing in the United States. Martha says, hi to you too. 790 says, is it a red flag for not receiving a response after a marriage interview for 8 months? It starts to become a red flag, yeah. Zebas, can I get a green card if I came through the border and married someone in the military? Well, we got to get your background and how the interaction at the border was. But if you're married to someone in the military, potentially you could do a program called Parole in Place. But the reason I say potentially is one is we got to make sure your background is clear. And secondly, the Trump administration may stop it or the field office may not like it. It's not your discretion. But you use a program called Parole in Place, which makes it so that you have lawful entry. Essentially, they'll think of it as a lawful entry. And that opens it up if you married a U.S. citizen to be able to adjust status, get a green card. Tassawar says, thank you for answering my question. You're welcome, Tassawar. Custom says, is it easy to cross illegally? I don't know. I've never done that, so I can't say. LA Queen says, how long are I-130s under this administration? This administration hasn't really changed anything in regard to I-130 timelines yet. It really kind of depends on what kind of I-130 you have as well. Great immigration, Arvin Signs, good to see you. Thanks for joining. But yeah, it just depends on your case. We don't know what it is. Immigration said it's super easy, bro. That's it. I think they've locked down the border now, but apparently millions of people are coming last 4 years. So it is what it is. All right, about to close up the show. If anyone has some questions, please let me know. Arvin, we got to connect since we saw each other summer at the conference. That we got a chance to connect. Sorry about that. LA Queen's marriage-based I-130s. Well, LA Queen, is it a marriage to U.S. citizen or an LPR, a green card? Taxter says Dignity Act will reduce F4 backlog. These acts don't go anywhere, so I don't bother reading them. Kidon says, I've been almost 2 months since I-290B is approved for I-485 for my mom's citizen. No status update. Yeah, I-290B, when you get approved, it's still no man's land. Arvin says, text me. I think I have your number. Yeah, I sent it. I'll do it. I'm going to make a note. I got to follow up, Arvin. All right, you got it, bro. Good to see you. Good to hear from you. Ahmad says, hi, sir. I filed my daughter's petition when I was on a green card. Now I've become a citizen. I change. Yeah, you technically change. But I mean, it depends on how old your daughter was, what kind of case it was. But most likely, if you just filed directly for your daughter, I got to see how old was she like when you did it. There's a lot of different factors that we got to go into. How hopefully, you didn't mess up the case, Ahmad, because her age becomes really important. If she was like over 21, potentially got messed up that she became a citizen. So we have to see what's going on there. Please schedule consultation at jqqlaw.com/contact. So LA Queen, U.S. citizen, those are taking 12 to 14 months on average. Some is faster, some is slower. Swaz says, is it super risky if we don't follow the 90-day rule to file just on a status? I don't think it's super risky if you're married to a U.S. citizen, but the reality is under this administration, everything changes like within 10 minutes. Like I might get a memo from USCIS right now that says they're changing the rules. So the more conservative you are, the better. 790, what's the worst that can happen after an interview, marriage based? They'll come and pick you up and send you to Alligator Alcatraz. That's the worst case. And deport you. Taxer says, you think F4 backlog will be reduced? No. It's just going to stay like that. I'm going to say she's age 30. Okay, so she goes from F2B category to F1, but under the Child Status Protection Act, she could remain the F2B category. So you got to contact the government and request to stay in the LPR category, but maybe go online and search Child Status Protection Act or CSPA, petitioner naturalized adult child of a green card holder. There'll be stuff about that. I've done videos on YouTube on it. If you want to pay for it, schedule a consultation. I can just break it down for you. But I have both videos online, and I'm sure the Google and stuff, things will pop up for that scenario. Foley says, what if I want to do self-deportation but I got my passport? I don't specialize in that kind of situation. Toy Donut says, how much is E2 application now? Well, it depends on if you're doing visa processing or consular processing visa or change of status, as well as if you're doing premium processing and what country you're from for visa applications for because there's additional visa reciprocity charge. So schedule consultation. Alma says she's age 30 and I'm changed my status. Okay, so as I said, like there's very specific videos I've done on this. I need to talk with you about it. Please schedule a consultation, jqqlaw.com/contact. jqqlaw.com/contact. But I did explain it. You got to request to stay in F2B on a Child Status Protection Act because it's faster a little bit. Riv Baron says, hello, could you please let me know the latest possible date I should submit my application removal conditions of my green card expires October. That I can't give you individual legal guidance here. It's not the place for that. Please schedule a consultation time. jqqlaw.com/contact is the place to go. Arctic says, will it look good for citizenship now that I've become an EMT? Thank you, bro. Historically, it didn't matter, but now, yeah, why not? I mean, it's up to some random officer who wants to make up things. That's just a new rule, so I can't really say. I-75, Alex says, I-751 approved based on extreme cruelty. Can I file M400 on 3-year basis? Yes, they allow you to do that if it's approved for that reason. Toy Donut says, Canada. I forgot what your original question was, Toy Donut. Oh, yeah, schedule consultation. That's what I said. Patel Rumi, thanks for joining again. Got a lot of regulars. Good to see everybody. All right, it's the 30-minute mark. So thank you everyone for joining us. I'm Immigration Lawyer John Khosravi. Hope we helped out a little bit to give you an understanding of the immigration process. If you want to schedule a private consultation, go to our website, jqqlaw.com/contact. And just as importantly, if you're interested in a marriage or fiance case, something we do a lot of, I wrote a guide. The best guide out there is free, called the Ultimate Marriage Green Card Guide. Go to marriageimmigrationlaw.com/contact. I'm sorry, no, I'm mixing up things. marriageimmigrationlaw.com. That's it, and download the guide. Arctic says, I'm saving American lives. That should preponderate the evidence. Yeah, I mean, there's no standards, essentially, so probably. I would just primarily focus on meeting the basic requirements of how long you've been here, no tax issues, that kind of stuff. Sharp says, can I enter the USA with a valid visitor visa pending I-130? You could attempt to enter. It's up to the customs officer whether they'll let you in. Ahmed says, how long is the process for my daughter after I'm a citizen? Process for 5 years already completed. I don't know. I got to talk with you because it's very risky to naturalize when you have a case already pending. It could like destroy the case. So I don't want to give advice until I double check it. I've had people who become citizens and they realize they have to restart the whole process over again. Sweza says, I'm marrying after 20 days after I enter the U.S. and my in a visitor visa to my military fiance. Is it okay? I can't. First of all, it's individual legal guidance. I can't give that here, but you're encountering risk, so it's up to how much risk you want to take. It's up to the government who's going to make a final decision. So whether I say okay or not doesn't really matter. It's up to the government. So you just got to be wise and best have a lawyer. Like, oh, someone knows what they're talking about because I've run into lawyers that don't know what they're talking about a lot. Sharp says, should I try to enter with pending I-130? Could it mess up the case? If they accuse you of fraud or misrepresentation and expedited removal, you can mess up the case. Please schedule a consultation. We'll go into more detail what's going on. Johnny says, I filed the I-130 petition for my wife on December 2020. It's still pending. Is it normal? Are you a U.S. citizen or green card holder? If you're a citizen, that's abnormal for 2.5 years. Zai says, USCIS sent me an interview date for adjustment, then cancel it for no reason. I received the paper notice. Yeah, they do that. This is kind of more and more nowadays. JC says, my spouse came on a CR1, and that's when we started living together. Can we file 3 months early? Not since we won't have 3 years of marriage. Yeah, you could file 3 months early. So whatever a green card issuance day is, 3 years after that, take back 90 days, and that's when you can file. Valerie says, I sent my I-485 on Tuesday, and today they tell me they mailed the resolution. Good or bad? I'm not sure. You got to see online, but wait for the notice. Wait for the notice what it is. That resolution, I'm not sure what that means in there. So Johnny says a green card holder. Yeah, so green card holder case is going to take 2 to 4 years for them to prove the I-130, so that's normal. What can I do until I receive the rescheduled date? Nothing. Chi Cosm says, what is the process time for jointly filed I-751? 6 months to 4 years. And JC, I answered your question. Murad says, how long does it take to be called for interview after I-751 endorsed waiver? 6 months to 4 years. So essentially the timeline I'm giving you is, for me to say, is worthless because it's so widely open, but it really is those, again, the whole variation from 6 months to 4 years. All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Good to see you all again. Please catch up with us next week, Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern. We'll also, I would recommend following us on YouTube because, one, as I do random pop-ups, and I'm usually there, and I answer questions better for people who post on YouTube because the computer system we have gives priority to YouTube. I get to see it better. So having said that, thank you for joining us. God bless, be safe, and I'll see you all next week. Bye-bye. Thanks, Moran.